Well, folks, welcome back to the Preconstruction Podcast. We're here live from Precon World 2024 in Texas. And I have got the wonderful Nick Papadopoulos in my company. Now, I went and watched Nick present yesterday, and to say that it was a success would be an underestimation. It was full house, standing room only at the back, and we actually had a few people standing. So we're going to go through the high level of what Nick discussed, but it's mostly be about AI. So thanks for joining us, Nick.
Hey, wonderful to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
And some of you may know, Nick's already been on talking about Eos, his company and what they do. If you haven't had a listen to it, go back, have a listen. But today's all about demystifying AI, the practical predictive analytics for better estimates. That was the topic, and we're going to get into it now. Nick, well done on the presentation.
Thank you so much.
For anybody, and there was only about maybe 120 people at it. Anybody who wasn't there, what was it about? Give us a high level overview.
So the intent was to educate the attendees about AI, right? So there's all this fear, uncertainty, and doubt about AI. We tend to fear the things that are unknown. And so naturally what I wanted to do was achieve the goal of educating that audience, that they walked out of there with less fear, less concern, a bit more understanding of the underlying technology, a bit more understanding of the parts and pieces, how it worked, some of its limitations, some of the concerns that you should have around it, and how to use it wisely, how to apply it into your business.
It's funny, you did an example of the various different options out there, learning manage or
LLMs.
LLMs.
Yeah. Large language models. Yeah.
Large language models. It was interesting because some of them are better within certain situations. So there's better calculations, there's better storytelling. There's one that you use for design and advertising.
That's right.
How does one that has never gone in and tried all of this, how do you figure that out, which is better for you?
Pure experimentation, nothing else. It's all about firing them up. The wonderful thing is that these companies have developed free versions of these models. So there's a very low barrier to entry to simply execute, jump into the models and start trying things and take the prompts that you put into one model, just copy and paste those into another one and see what the results are. And just continue to experiment, and you find the ones that resonate with you for different use cases. Yeah, some are better at marketing strategy, some are better at writing, some are better at, if you're a coder, code support, some are better at math. And so it just really depends. Some have reasoning and more what they call thinking. Others, they just vary so much. And there's so many of them. That was one of the things I wanted to try to convey to the audience, is that OpenAI has done a magnificent job at positioning ChatGPT equals AI. Right? And obviously it's much, much broader than that. And so there are lots of vendors out there. There are lots of types of AI. And so we tried to go down the road of understanding that AI isn't just one thing. It's many different things. It's both deep and it's very broad. And so to understand, when you say we're talking about AI, what kind of AI are you talking about? And which vendor are you, connected to? And are you growing the AI internally, or are you leaning on a third-party vendor like OpenAI or Anthropic or XAI to handle that heavy lifting for you?
Yeah, and it's funny. What I really liked about the conversation was people talking about it now are just talking about the incredible capabilities of it. But you were very conscious of talking about the governance and the pitfalls.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to be careful about this, specifically around taking sensitive data and dropping it into these public AIs and understanding how that is accessible, to others, certainly to the company that you're dumping it on and all that kind of thing. There's definitely constraints around liabilities, and there's lawsuits are already flying, in terms of that. So you have to be very, very careful about that. I do think that we're going to get to the point where owners are going to be asking questions like, how much AI did you use in your proposal response? Interesting. Because they're going to want to know, because that's going to tell them the level of effort that maybe you put into it. That's going to tell them the rigor that they may have put into it, in terms of their response. And a smart owner will understand if it's a heavy AI dose, there may be additional risk in here that maybe wasn't there in the past.
Interesting.
Yeah.
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 So they're almost going to be like the school teachers of asking the students, how much AI did you use doing
Basically.
this dissertation?
Basically, absolutely. Think about it, right? So these AIs are beautiful in the sense that they are the reward functions of these large language models are built such that they will give you a response, and a very confident response. It may not be accurate, but by God, it sure looks good. And people will interpret that and assume that it is accurate because it sounds so good in how they explain it. They may be fabricating their explanation. They will literally lie about how they did something. And people will go, but that sounds so good. That's going to be the basis of my answer. And they'll pass it through to somebody else, like the owner. And there's a high risk in that if you don't do that. So one of the really important aspects that we tried to convey yesterday was the idea that you can't blindly trust the output of the AI. You must understand the output of the AI, and then you ultimately must verify the output of the AI. Blindly trusting it is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, because one person asked in the, it's actually Ali who's coming on the podcast later from the Ryan companies. She was saying it does give you sources, but again, if it's just the one source or the first source that it came across, there may be other sources as well. So it's digging a wee bit deeper, but allowing the AI or the large language model to do the heavy lifting for you.
Yes, yeah. And there's a difference between identifying the sources and explaining the methodology. So the sources may be accurate, the sources may be fabricated. Sometimes those sources literally don't exist, but they'll say, oh, this is the source that I used. And you go there and you go, that source doesn't exist. And so they're built around answering whether they're right or wrong, because they will, if they answer, there's a shot that they might be right. If they don't answer, they'll never be right. And the reward function is such that they need to be right.
Interesting. So that's the external third-party stuff. Yeah. Talk to me now, and Stuart Carroll's just been on the podcast talking about how they're trying to incorporate it into their pre-construction estimating platform. Right. Tell me, with your company, Eos Group, what are you guys doing? What are you seeing out there, and how are you implementing it to companies right now?
Sure. So we have a platform called Cortex. It's our data analytics platform, historical data, benchmarking, trend analysis, conceptual estimating. And we're doing the heavy lifting of gathering the data and organizing it in such a way that makes it quote unquote good data, right? We're dealing with the idea of data cleansing, data normalization. What we've learned over time is that good data results in good predictions. Bad data results in bad predictions. It's a very simple formula, right? So part of our AI strategy is to actually not only just try to capture that data, but use AI to cleanse that data, to do things like code the data where it's missing codes, to correct wrong codes, right? So companies oftentimes want to be able to slice and dice. One of the powers of Destiny is the ability to slice and dice it 8 different ways. And so sometimes you want to see an estimate by master format, by unit format, by code of accounts, whatever it is, and you have to code everything correctly. A lot of times that isn't happening. And so can our AI do that data cleansing for the organization and lower that level of effort to have to try to get that data conditioned correctly before it can be analyzed correctly? In other areas, what we're doing is we're reviewing the data and analyzing it to try to predict what's called metadata, characteristics. So can I look at the body of an estimate and predict the kind of skin that the project has? Can I predict the perimeter, linear footage? Can I predict the number of stories simply by looking at the underlying data like a human would? Right? And so those are parameters that you need in historical analysis because they create the characteristics by which you search upon the data. So tomorrow when you go into your history and you say, I'm looking for an office project of this size, of this height, of this skin type, of this foundation type, of this structure type, all those parameters need to be there in such a way that the system can respond back correctly.
Yeah, because if I think back with the clients that we work with and the estimators and pre-construction managers, it's almost that they don't know how to get started on their journey. That seems to be the doing the heavy lifting at the beginning, whether it be tagging stuff or even getting the data points that they want to collect from all the different projects. Is that a common?
It's absolutely common. It's still common today, right? That's been we've been in this business now for 25 years, just in this particular space. It was a problem then, it's a problem now, right? And it's a lot of it is the issue of trying to create a system that is highly restrictive, but produces great data quality. You could do that. The problem is the estimators just choke to death because it's too rigid, right? And so on the other end is the Wild West. Give them free-form Excel and let them just do whatever they want, and never the two shall meet because they'll never be the same, and complete inconsistency. And so, there's this balancing act, between getting the work out the door, but then developing high-quality data by which you can, generate predictive analytics that work.
Brilliant. And then once you have got that data then the AI can go to work.
Yes.
And that's when it really can be used.
That's right. That's when you can do things like predict costs, nonlinear pricing, predict scope, predict quantities, come through and predict markup strategies, optimize these budgets for specific elements. So today in our system, you go find your 5 projects, you line them up and you say, these look pretty good. Build me a new budget from these 5, adjust it to Dallas in 2027, because that's when we're projecting to build this thing, and scale it based on the size that I think this thing needs. And it does all that today. Wow. And today the user can go in and say, okay, I like the foundation of this one better than these others, so don't use the average of the 5, use that second one. Exclude the mechanical systems from the third and the fourth one because they don't apply. And the user has manual capability to override those things to optimize this. In the future, the AI will come in and say, I recommend you use this particular price. I recommend you exclude this particular data. I recommend you add a new project that you didn't add in before, because I think that project will actually help you formulate your budget. Wow. So today, the user can take a system and say, I don't like the site area at the site system that's in these 5 projects. None of them apply, right? They were all built on solid ground, and I'm building on a swamp. Yeah. So replace that with other project site, components that were built around swamps. You can do that today manually. The AI will suggest that tomorrow. And
so how long, you mentioned there 5 projects and then get the basically the best out of all 5 and predictive. How long does it take from, as you say, your analytics and data journey being not really knowing what to do from there until you can do something like that?
In the sense of the AI, or in sense of what we're doing today?
Just in the sense of what you're doing today.
It takes months, right? It generally takes months for an organization to do that, and it all depends on its maturity. Sometimes we arrive and the organization has figured this out. They just don't have a great tool set by which to analyze this. They're stuck in a Power BI dashboard. That's as far as they've gone with it, right? But there's a whole world beyond a Power BI dashboard, which is effectively a static report with some slicers in it, to have an interactive experience, to be data explorers rather than data consumers of somebody's pre-configured view of the world, which is what that Power BI report is, right? So if they've done all that, then it's actually more like weeks. But go to the other end, they have no standards, they have no consistency, they have no taxonomy. They have no idea of how to do this. You're kind of holding their hand from the very ground up, and that can take very many months, and sometimes even over a year.
Yeah, that's still quick.
It can be quick.
I mean, it can be quick. I wasn't expecting that. I thought maybe 3 to 5 years.
No.
Just to get the standardization.
No, you can automate this now today much faster than you could 25 years ago. I would say, a couple, 3 years. Today, no.
Is that what excites you? Like, you've been at this now for 25 years.
Yeah.
Is that what excites you now? Just the pace at which the industry's moving?
It's very fun. 25 years ago, I was preaching on why data mattered. Yeah. They're like, what do you care about aggregating this, right? They're like, I don't understand, why you would do this. Today, everybody knows why. I don't have to come in and preach to anybody. Just a matter of how to make what they're doing better.
Yeah. And almost knitting it together, because I would imagine most companies have some sort of data pile. They've got almost the bones of something.
They do.
You just gotta connect it all.
They do. And today companies understand the value of data, the need to be data driven and all that kind of thing. They've been bombarded with the idea of data driven decisions, right? That kind of thing. So we have to lean on our data to help us make better decisions, to utilize it, to make the data work for us, rather than us, producing it and losing it and all that kind of thing. So it's a very, very common thing.
And is there any case studies or examples that you could give us of you doing that, or success stories you've had over the last 5-10 years?
Sure. So in one case, we had a client that was an owner client that was able to use their collective history on a proposal from a contractor and save about $10 million because they were able to show the contractor that they have history for this particular element of a project. And this was the range of costs normalized to the target location. And the contractor's numbers were 3 times that. So is it justified that the contractor's was 3X? Maybe, right? But ultimately it wasn't. Yeah. And they said, you need to be in this range. And ultimately the contractor acquiesced and said, you have the data to support your case that my price is 3X. I will reduce my price for this particular element. And it ultimately was a mega project. So it was about $10 million in savings to the owner.
Wow, it's
yeah,
amazing.
Real stuff. Yeah.
And I understand from an owner's point of view, if they build that type of project all over the US and that's all that they've done, is that when it becomes really, really good?
Absolutely.
When you're in that vertical of healthcare, light industrial, data centers.
The owner knows more about the project than the contractor even does in that particular case. And because they've got that collective data to do that. Smart owners are doing this now because they want to be better negotiators with contractors.
And then on the contractor side, you see them like spinning up a light industrial market sector or a data center, high tech market sector. So once they do that, then they can become the data essentially from healthcare or pharma. It's not getting intertwined.
Yeah,
it's becoming
separated out. Yeah, I didn't get to it. So it's very important to use it for the whole idea of validation and benchmarking and all that. Benchmarking is going to be very, very critical. The idea of comparing something to something else, that's going to be super critical going forward with AI. AI is going to generate a lot of content very quickly. And I would say that it's plausible to think that the estimator of the future will actually be someone who corrects the AI.
Wow.
Not generates, but rather reviews and corrects the AI.
Interesting.
And as a result, the question becomes, how do you know what the correct answer is? You lean on your historical experience by which to measure what the AI is generating against what your history is telling you it is.
Okay.
Right? So therefore, you won't have to go out there and count all the doors and all the toilets and all the windows. The AI is doing that for you. You won't have to figure out the scope. The AI will start to put those things together. You won't have to figure out that pricing. The AI is going to do that for you. The question is going to be, is it right? And how will you know if it's right?
So essentially, rather than estimator, we're going to have value engineers.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. Data analysts and value engineers. You know, the days of counting are going to go away, especially with model-driven estimating and all that. You're going to have these models generating the scope, the quantities, all those types of things. Contractors will automatically price that against that. They'll fill in all the gaps that are missing from the model and all that type of thing. But ultimately, the question will become, is it right? How do you know if it's right? And these are contractors that are gamblers. They're taking bets, right? And so ultimately, you're going to make this $100 million bet. You're not going to do it on something that the AI said. You're going to say, okay, well, thank you, Mr. or Mrs. AI. I've got a number, but let me tell you if it's right or wrong based on my trusted history.
And then, of course, then that's where the conversation, the pre-con managers come to the fore, where they sit and they talk to the architect, they talk to the designer, and they talk to the owner and say, listen, this is the basis of the project, but let's sort out those 4 or 5 things that we need to either spend money on, save money on.
Sure. That's the whole value engineering, value analysis type of exercise. That's where the contractor earns their keep, is optimization.
I can hear the pre-con managers and the senior estimators listening to this going, please get me there quicker. My company needs to do that.
It's all speed right now. Everything is still, based on speed to market, right? The demand is still high. Precon is overloaded. You saw the numbers today from Stephen Jones from Dodge, right? The work is out there. The growth is out there. So this is all coming fast and furious to Precon. They're going to have to decide maybe what to respond to, but ultimately it's the speed at which they can respond to.
And this is the thing that I see as well with candidates and clients is everybody knows they have to do it, but the companies that have been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years that are now prepared for this upward trajectory of projects and labor shortage, they're going to be in a great position.
Yeah, we had clients on our platform. We're on our 3rd generation platform now, right? So we have clients from the very first one now on to the 3rd one. They literally have thousands of projects in their historical database. And they have this mass set of cleansed, normalized, trusted data that they can lean on to make these decisions, to make these predictions. That's a huge advantage compared to someone who doesn't have all this going forward.
It just increases the pre-construction department's capabilities.
It does, but it increases the speed and it reduces the cost of delivering pre-construction services. For example, as a pre-con manager, they are bombarded with inquiries, requests for budgets. And some of them are real and some of them are not. And they have to decide whether they're going to respond to all of them or some of them or whatever it is. The ones that aren't real, they may need to respond to, but they want to respond at the lowest cost possible to have a credible response. The ones that are real, they want to put their most effort into. But ultimately, by having the data and the automation, you drive down the cost of responding to these opportunities because you can do it faster, you can do it more efficiently. Then the question becomes, do you go after more work, with the resources that you have, or do you focus on, the ideal projects that are going to make you the most money?
So that's interesting, right? So basically the pre-construction departments within these companies, the president or the CEO or the owner is turning around and going, yeah, that's grand. So, but they're fighting for this technology and technology innovation, but they're seeing it as an overhead.
Sure.
But they then have got to communicate to the owner and say, listen, when we get this technology in and get people trained up and get data and projects into the system, it's going to drive down. So rather than only getting 20% of pre-con paid for, we could actually crank out far more, and it could be up at 60, 70%.
Yeah, absolutely. But far more efficient, right? Do more with less. Yeah, absolutely. So AI is simply going to enhance all this, but foundationally, you have to have the right data in order to do this with confidence, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm doing a talk now at 2:30, and it's all about pre-con talent. And my communication to the contractors will be that it's not cyclical. It's the demand, the education program, people coming out of the trades, the narrative around construction. They're not driving people towards pre-construction and estimating. Like, there's not going to be an influx of people. So unless you get the technology there and the people to use the technology, then you're going to be probably regressing.
Yeah, consider that the technology is a draw on talent.
Yeah.
Right? So you look at two kids coming out of school, they look at two opportunities, or a kid coming out of school, look at two opportunities. Somebody says to them, here's an old computer program that we've been using for the last, 50 years. Someone says, here's a new modern technology, AI-based, that you've grown up with. Where is that young person going to lean towards, right? They're going to lean to the one that has the better tool set, that gives them a better chance of success than the one that's using some old outdated tech. It's like going back to old green screens, for us older folks, to see that, right? Where they're gonna migrate to the tech savvy companies that are going to empower them to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, they know from their experience, and maybe people not coming out of school, but their experience of doing estimating, which they did it 10, 15 years ago, the way they did it, like, it's completely changing.
Yeah, it's changing. It's all much more collaborative and it's faster and much more data. So, yeah.
Talk to me now about, just towards the end, Nick, about Cortex and the tools that you have at your disposal. What's exciting you most about it?
It's the adoption. It's the adoption, the knowledge, right? So we ran some surveys yesterday, which were fun in terms of where people were on their journeys. You had the resigned soldier who's sort of given up and all that. And that was a very low number, which is very encouraging to see. You have the spreadsheet warrior, the DIY, kind of thing, which is more, of course, that's where people tend to start. You've got the Power BI folks on the dashboard, and the majority were at that place. And then there was the beyond the dashboard world, right? And so that was lower, which is to be expected, but that's growing. And it's exciting to see that adoption, rising. So it's a natural progression for us in the sense that companies know they need to get their data act in order, and Excel is always the starting point, and they mature that into a Power BI experience. And at some point in time, they hit the wall with Power BI. And once they hit that wall, they need something better. And so we get a lot of that. Companies coming to us and saying, we've gone as far as we can with Power BI, but we need something more, and that's where we sit.
And the way you described it earlier, it's the Power BI, it's the display of data, but it's then the manipulation behind that.
That's right.
That's where you come in.
Power BI to us is very much like Excel is to Destiny, right? And so Excel, you can do so much with it, and there are some people who can say, I can do everything in Destiny that I can in Excel, right? And so they get these 30 megabyte spreadsheets, and they get fragile and they break and all that. Ultimately, they realize that that's a losing proposition, and so they move into a packaged application. Power BI is similar to that from our perspective. You try to do as much as you can in Power BI, you hit the wall, and you need something bigger and better, and that's where we sit.
Brilliant. Well, listen, if there is anybody listening there, Nick, and they're saying, what Nick's talking about, I'm at that stage in my journey and I need to just find out a little bit more. Where's the best place to get in contact?
Website, eosgroup.com. There's videos, there's all kinds of information about that, articles and all that. And I'll be writing about it in Construction Dive,
Nice.
coming up here. So got an article coming up here in October. We'll talk more about this topic and AI and how it fits into the whole ecosystem. So yeah, just the website. So it's a pretty easy fit.
Brilliant. Well, and listen, folks, I will put the website address in the show notes below, but I'll also put the Construction Dive article in there as well when it comes out, so you can just click on it and listen to Nick talking as well. Nick, this has been thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.